name is Emily, and today we are going to learn how to make pumpkin carving less miserable. I've got 5 tips for you today that should help your experience go by quicker and be less painful and annoying. Tip number 1. I see y'all cutting your pumpkin hole from the top, and you need to be cutting it from the bottom. I'm not going to demonstrate because that would take way too long time, and you don't have time and I don't have time. What makes it easier when you cut your shape from the bottom, you'll have this bottom tiny piece that you can put your candle on, and then you will literally set the rest of the pumpkin on top. Instead of cutting from the top, digging your arm down through your gross pumpkin, putting the candle down, and then reaching in with a lighter and trying to light it all while it's inside the pumpkin. Just make it easier, cut from the bottom. Another tip I have for you is when you start getting all your guts and nasty stuff out of the pumpkin, I take a spoon and I try to scrape on the interior of the pumpkin as much as I can and get this outer rind to be pretty dang thin. Now, not super thin, because otherwise when you start carving into it, it will deteriorate and break on you quicker. But if you have just a thinner pumpkin to carve out, it's just so much easier. Whereas if you don't get your guts out and get as much out, it's just really hard to carve through that surface. This should have been the first rule, but that's okay. Highly recommend playing some music. Why? Because everyone's gonna be grumpy and grunting in silence as they carve their pumpkins, because it's difficult and irritating to do. So, get a spooky playlist, play it on a speaker, or play it on your phone. That way you don't have to sit in awkward silence and hear people complaining about how much they don't like their pumpkin. Next tip I have is regarding the stencil. This year, I will be making a unicorn. Duh. So what I like to do is to tape my stencil around the pumpkin. I take a thumbtack and I thumbtack through in small little dots all along the outer line of the stencil. I don't know if everyone already does this, but I find it useful because then I can peel away the stencil. I have a little tiny dot outline. Take a Sharpie, connect all the dots, and then your stencil will be there. The last tip I have is to use things other than those pumpkin carving kits to carve your pumpkin. If you were just using that tiny little baby saw they give you, you are gonna have the worst time of your life. I like to use really weird household items. I personally prefer a steak knife. Really, anything you can get creative with is gonna be much better to carve with than those stupid little child cutting pieces that they suck. I hope these 5 tips really helped you out so that when you start carving your pumpkin, or if you do it again next year, remember these so that you can have a less miserable time carving pumpkins. I hope you have a safe and happy Halloween, and don't forget, I sell houses just as well as I carve pumpkins. So reach out to me if you need any real estate help.